Hey everyone. So last year I was able to visit Amboseli National Park in Kenya and filmed this video and recreated it slash rebuilt it in Blender. This video is going to be a small breakdown, not necessarily a step-by-step tutorial, but just kind of the process and decisions behind it. I'll try to break this video up into 4 or so parts. The animation first, the terrain, compositing, and sound effects. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So for the first part, I actually started with the animation. The model was from CG Trader. I was able to get it for a pretty cheap price, and it was a pretty high quality model. I did some basic retexturing, just as adding a dust layer on top. It was pretty subtle in the final, but it did make a little bit of a difference for me. Also just adjusted the normals just a tad bit. For the animation, I initially thought I would use my original video that I had taken as like kind of the main reference, but I quickly found that animating a walk cycle from just one angle slash point of view is very difficult. So I decided to use this animation reference from a YouTube video. I'll be able to show it on the screen and link the reference in the description. But I worked in passes. I basically timed out the normal walk cycle. I think it was 72 frames I used. And I got the final result, which is all right. I think it was decent for what I wanted. There was a lot of errors slash nitpicky things that I definitely could have fixed, but if I wanted to actually stay on track for this project, I essentially had to move on. So for the terrain, I split it up into 3 parts: the background, midground, and foreground. For the background, I got the height map from some website so it could be pretty accurate. Exported that and then used Gaea actually to edit the height maps a little bit more. And the main reason for this was because it gives you a snow map and sediment map. But after importing that into Gaea, I just kind of added some sharpen and some roughen and rugged nodes, I believe. It was pretty simple. I could have honestly done it in Blender, but I saw what Gaea was used for and thought it would be easier to get the maps out of that. So after exporting that out of Gaea, I went into Blender and did some basic retexturing using those maps. Found some basic snow texture online and just put that on top and got the snow for the cover of the mountain. And then just did some basic texture mixing to kind of add some like variation and different types of rock texture throughout. I think it turned out pretty alright. I didn't need to add too much detail since it was so in the distance. As for the midground and the foreground, I didn't use Gaea for those. I just did some basic displacement and some sculpting using Blender. They basically have the same process. The main thing I want to address over here is the use of Botanic. I did use Botanic for both for the scattering of the plants. For the foreground, I did had a little bit more plants, and then for the midground, I essentially just had trees. And then I actually scattered some assets from the Dust Particles Plus plugin from Creative Shrimp. I'll make sure to link that in the description. After that, I scattered some like free cloud PNGs that I got off the internet, and that was it. And then I got the final result. I think it turned out pretty good. Yeah. Alright, so for the compositing, this was actually the first time I had used DaVinci Resolve. I kind of have been wanting to move over to a node-based program for a long time on it, but I figured the compositing would be simple enough for this project that I would be able to get it done in Fusion as a first-time user, and it turned out pretty alright. You know, coming from After Effects, I was definitely not used to the nodes. I'll only show the compositing for the second shot. I think that was like the most complicated one, technically. But the rest of them also just had the same process. So first, I'll show off what the layers I rendered. So this is the foreground, which was just the front layer and then the elephant itself. And then I had the background, or sorry, yes, the background, which was just a mountain. And then I had the sky, and that was just the HDRI. And I had those 3 passes. Then I could just combine them with the basic merge nodes and get this, and then I ran that through an ACES transform so I can get the ACES CG color space. And then I actually did a tracker for the first time so I could track a lens flare. This is the way I did it. I did use just the basic DaVinci Resolve lens flare to get that, and then I merged that together on top. However, I did want the elephant to obviously like cover the lens flare a little bit, so what I did was I took the foreground layer, ran that through an ACES transform, then just did a basic map control node so I can get kind of like a rim light type effect, and just use the ellipse to mask it, and then use a collect corrector, the same thing, just get the glow looking a little nicer, and merge that over it. And then I got that so I could kind of like fade in and fade out over it. And then same thing for the exponential glow. I just did a basic mask, added that glow, Pretty simple, and then added some heat distortion. It was very, very subtle in the last. Honestly, I could have even lowered it a little bit. It kind of ruined the effect a little bit, but then I got the final result. Yeah, I think that's it for the compositing. I honestly am pretty new to color grading still, so I did, you know, it wasn't too advanced, but after some basic cropping and some letterboxing, I ran it through a couple things. So this was just a basic curves node, if it would load. Just lowered the curves a little bit. Then added a glow on top. Then added some halation, very, very subtle. Then some little bit of sharpen and a little bit of foam grain. Really not complicated at all, honestly. All right, finally, for the sound effects, this is something I'm not necessarily like the best at, but I did do them in Sony Vegas. I tried doing them in DaVinci's Fairlight. I just couldn't really figure out the layout, and it didn't seem as intuitive as Vegas had been for me. I'm not gonna really talk through this much. I'll just show kind of like on screen like the layers that I used. That's gonna be it. I hope you guys learned something. I think for next time, I definitely want to kind of go more in depth and you know, cover some more like minute details. So if you have any ideas for projects or things you want to learn inside Blender or really any 3D program, let me know and I'd be happy to do it. This is also an entry to the r/Blender monthly contest. I kind of just found out about it, and I don't know, it was pretty cool to be able to enter in it. Anyways, thanks for all the support. I really appreciate it as always, and I'll see y'all later.